Hi, it's the end of day 1. We're going to check out our sourdough starter. If you hear some crunching in the background, it's our dogs, Dido and O'Reilly. They're having supper. And we're going to ignore that. What we're going to do is we're going to look into the crock and see if there are any bubbles. No bubbles today. We'll try again tomorrow. Hi, it's the evening of the second day. Let's check out the starter. Look at what's happening. It's starting to bubble up. The yeast is doing its thing. You can see the potato water is cloudy, as it should be. It's working. Let's check it out tomorrow and see what happens on the third day. Hi, it's the afternoon of the third day. Let's check the starter. What you see are bubbles. That's precisely what we want. There are actually bubbles coming from underneath, and the top is foaming. This is great. This is the yeast bacteria doing its thing in our potato soup field. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take it down to the spring and store it. You can store it in a refrigerator, but for right now, let's do it the old-fashioned way in the spring. Follow me down. The spring's across the road. Let's go. The spring was indeed our first and only source of water when we settled here. It was also our only refrigerator. We stored our butter, cheese, milk, meats, anything that needed to be kept cool, we would simply store in the spring. Now that did create problems. The spring is not always low, at times it's way too high. And that is how I lost my best starter. About 15 years ago when I was doing market baking, I was baking 3 to 4 days a week throughout the warm weather from May through October. The sour quality, the alcohol content of my starter was so high that it was amazing. It had an incredible kick to it, and that's what I want from a sourdough. I want to kick. And people were amazed. People were amazed at how sour it was. It was too sour for some people. They said it was the equal of any sourdough they'd had in San Francisco, which it was. My only problem was we had some incredible rains, and with the crock sitting in the spring, the water level rose, the crock tilted over. My sourdough starter came down into the pond, down into the run, down to the Montandro Creek, down to the Susquehanna, and eventually ended up in the Chesapeake. And if you go to the Inner Harbor and see bubbles in the Inner Harbor, that's probably my sourdough starter still doing its thing. What we're going to do now is we're going to put the crock into the spring. We're going to let it set. We're not going to do anything to it. Sourdough starter does not need to be rejuvenated daily. It's not like those Amish friendship breads or cakes you've heard about. The recipes for those are so complicated. They require weeks of daily rejuvenation. Adding more sugar, stirring it up, bringing it back to life. Basically what you're doing is you're keeping it from resting. And when you keep a starter from resting, you're not letting the alcohol content rise. You're not getting the layer of liquor on top, that brown liquor that rises to the top and keeps that, or actually creates the sour quality. If you don't have a brown liquor forming on your sourdough starter, you're not getting the full potential kick, the full sour flavor of your starter. And that's what you want, is that brown liquor to form. Every time you disturb that, every time you stir it back in, every time you try and rejuvenate it, you are inhibiting the aging of the liquor. It's very much like a fine rye whiskey. The more it ages, the stronger it gets. So we're going to set it into the spring. Right now, it's a Friday afternoon. I hope to do the baking on Tuesday. On Monday, we will indeed rejuvenate the starter. We'll bring it back to life. We'll go through that whole process in the next video. For right now, I have a slate top on top of the crock to keep buds and things from getting into the starter. I'm going to set it into the spring. We're going to forget about it until Monday, when we'll get the starter and we'll start it up again. The water is up to about 2/3 of the level of the crock, much higher, and it actually will dump the crock over. So we're going to let it stay at that until Monday.